Hello friends, Big Stupid Grin here, and we are back with part 1 of a multi-part series based on the custom scenario by Ian Martin, Stranger Things. So full disclosure, I haven't watched this show yet. I'm not much of a TV watcher unless it's documentaries and sports, usually. But I promise, since I believe it's on Netflix and we get Netflix, I'll check it out, and if I like it, I'll binge watch it and then come back. But this is in several parts for a couple of reasons. This first part, we're going to be looking at the story and the investigators. There are 5 custom investigators, 1 for each class, so I want you guys to guess and think of who belongs in each class. Then we're going to look at my deck lists, the basic weaknesses we draw, and all that good stuff. We're going to read the story, and then we're going to call it a video, because this is going to take a long time, because we are playing two-handed solo. I've never played two-handed solo before, and just practicing took a million years to do anything, especially when you're talking out your process. So pass out to people channels like Winging It that play two-handed. I'm sure other people play two-handed on their channels as well, but it's a lot of thinking that I normally don't do. Not that true solo isn't thinking, but anyway, I just wanted to break from too slow, to be honest. It kind of limits your deck building. You have to be able to deal with kind of everything and be able to do everything. So two-handed should be a refreshing break from that. Anyway, let's take a look at the investigators. So we're going to look at the rogue first. So guess who's that going to be? Ready? Jonathan Byers, the big brother. He has the photographer trait. He has stats of 3 will, 3 intellect, 2 fight, or agility. Reaction: after you succeed at a skill test while evading, you get +1 intellect for each point you succeeded by until the end of the turn. So kind of a twist on Finn's ability, kind of the same theme of someone who can investigate and evade. His other token is +2. You may automatically evade an enemy at your location. When you capture the right moment, it says more. He has 7 health and 7 sanity, just like Finn. He is a rogue with a survivor off class. All of these investigators are like the Knight of the Zealot investigators, so they have a full-on class and then they have their off class. They can pact cards from 0 to 2 on, and they get neutrals 0 to 5. First of all, these player cards are fantastic. They're in really nice high res. I can zoom in, doesn't look terrible. I'm really digging those. Let's take a look at his signature cards. His signature asset is his camera. Kind of makes sense. Costs 2. Has a bunch of symbols on it. Takes a hand slot. You get +2 fight and +2 evade against enemies with the same title as an enemy that you have photographed. You can exhaust the camera with an action, test intellect 2. If you succeed by X, X is the remaining health of a non-elite enemy at your location. Remember that you have photographed an enemy with that title. So you take a photograph of something and then you are better against it, basically. His treachery is loner, weakness, flaw. Revelation: put into play in your threat area, forced at the end of your turn. Take 1 horror if there are more than 2 locations connected, or more than 2 connections to your location. Sorry. 2 actions: test, willpower 4. You succeed, discard loner. So this is an interesting weakness. I don't think any weakness has dealt with being connected to too many locations. So it's very scenario specific, which makes sense. This is a custom scenario. You could, of course, try these investigators on in other campaigns, but it's a very interesting mechanic that they placed here. I really liked the design on the investigators. We're going to take a look at the next investigator. This is the Mystic. Again, take a guess on who you think it is. Okay. It is Joyce Byers, the mother. She has a stat line of 5 will for investigate, 1 fight, 2 agility. She's a believer. Fast action, take a direct horror. Your location gets -2 shroud for this investigation. Elder sign is +1. If the skill test is successful during investigation, heal 1 horror. Maybe I'm a mess, maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm out of my mind, but God help me, I will keep these lights up until the day I die. I think there's a chance that Will's still out there. She has 6 health, 8 sanity. I've said that before. She is a mystic seeker off class. I believe Marie Lambeau is the same. Her signature asset is the Wall of Lights. Costs 3. It uses X charges. X is the number of clues on Joyce Byers to a maximum of 4. You can exhaust the Wall of Lights and spend a charge to look at the top card of the encounter deck. You may place the looked at card on the bottom of this deck. So it's kind of a souped up. I think Alyssa Graham does the same thing. Could be wrong. Then her weakness is No One Believes, Treachery. Weakness and doubt trait. Revelation put into play in your threat area after an investigator fails a test while investigating. Take 1 direct horror. That's anywhere, by the way. Then you can place Doom on the current agenda to discard No One Believes. This may cause the current agenda to advance. So this is kind of like drawing Ancient Eagles to me. It's almost automatic that you're going to put it away. Unless you're at the end of a scenario or you know you're going to be fighting for a while. I wouldn't want to keep this in play when people need to investigate, though. That would be pretty scary. So let's take a look at the survivor. Again, I'll give you a couple of seconds to guess who that might be. 3, 2, 1. Nancy Wheeler, the student. She has a Skids O'Toole stat line of 2, 3, 3, 4. She has 7 and 7 for stats. For health sanity. Reaction, when a unique ally you control is defeated, add that ally to the victory display. You get +1 for all your stats if there is a unique ally in the victory display. The Elder sign is +0. If there is at least 1 unique ally in the victory display, you automatically succeed. She is York in that she has a Guardian off class for a survivor. She gets a couple of assets and a couple of weaknesses. So she has 2 unique allies, which kind of makes sense with her ability. Barb, 0 cost, 2 health, 2 sanity, so already that's pretty good. You get +1 willpower. After Barb is defeated, you may immediately take 2 actions as if it were your turn. So this is basically police badge on an ally, which is pretty good, especially for free. Then Steve Harrington, you're going to see that name again. Redeemed, 3 cost, 3 health, 2 sanity. Play only if Steve Harrington weakness is in your discard pile. Reaction, after an enemy engages you, exhaust Steve Harrington. The next action you take does not trigger an attack of opportunity. So that's interesting that she gets an extra action to do what she needs to do before she starts fighting. Be like grabbing a weapon, playing an event, doing an investigation if you really need to, that sort of thing. This is very interesting. Let's take a look at her weaknesses. Let's actually look at Steve Harrington, the not-so-fun kind. He has no fight, 2 health, no evade, ex-boyfriend, arrogant. Steve Harrington cannot be engaged, attacked, evaded, or damaged except by using the action on this card. Revelation, discard any non-story assets you control, ouch. Nancy Wheeler may not play allies, ouch. Parlay, test willpower 3. If you succeed, place damage on Steve Harrington. Pretty difficult when you start with a willpower of 2. So that's quite a thing. Now let's take a look at the people who we are going to be playing. So we have a Seeker up next. Think of all the characters who are left. 3, 2, 1, reveal. Yes, it is Lucas, Dustin, and Mike, the nerds. They have a stat line of 4-4-1-3. So they're high willpower, high investigate, and they can decent at evading but terrible at fighting. As a reaction, after you perform the same action 2 times in a row during your turn, you may immediately take another action of the same type. I think that's a really cool ability. This action does not count towards the number of actions you can take each turn. Elder Sign is +2. Draw X cards. X is the number of investigate actions you've taken this round. So they can set up shop and investigate 4 times in a turn, potentially. They could move 4 times in a turn, or 3 times and do something else. Very interesting. Friends don't lie. They have 5 health and 9 sanity. So they're quite squishy. And they have, they're just like Min, in which they are a seeker with a survivor off class. Their signature asset is their bicycles. To asset, you get +1 agility, and after you evade an enemy as a reaction, you can exhaust bicycles to move to a connecting location. So it's kind of a cool version of track shoes. And then Troy and James are the weakness. Bullies, Retaliate, Hunter. Prey, Lucas, Dustin, and Mike only. You must test a willpower 3, some additional cost to fight. Troy and James. If you fail, the fight test automatically fails. So probably not going to be fighting them too much. Probably going to try to evade. We'll see. Then we have our Guardian. You might know who this is. Let's go ahead and reveal him. It's Jim Hopper, the Chief. He has a Roland-like stat line of 3 will, 3 investigate, 4 fight, 2 agility. He does have 8 health and 6 sanity, so at least that's better in my opinion than Roland's 9 and 5. His police. Each non-elite enemy engaged with you gains action, parlay, test, fight 3 if you succeed. Evade this enemy and deal a damage to it. Then his Elder Sign is +1. If successful, discover clue at your location for each exhausted enemy at your location. So interesting. With 2 evade, you can still, or agility, you can still evade things in his own way. Like Leo Anderson, he's a Guardian with a Rogue off class. Excuse me. A lot of reading. Gotta drink some water. And his ability, or his signature card, is an event. Costs 1, coffee and contemplation. It's a routine. Jim Hopper deck only. Play only during your turn if there are no engaged enemies at your location. Heal 2 horror, then gain a clue from the token pool. There is an exhausted enemy at your location. And then his weakness is self-medicated. Put self-medicated into play in your threat area with 3 supplies on it. At the end of your turn, take 1 direct horror. You have not used a supply from self-medicated. Reaction. When your turn begins, spend a supply. You get -1 skill value during skill tests until the end of the round. Then, self-medicated has no supplies on it. Discard. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the decks now really quickly. Nothing too special. I'll leave links in the description. But I already drew basic weaknesses. He drew internal injury. Nothing too scary. Just take 2 actions and discard it, or else take a direct damage at the end of your turn. And then our boys here, Lucas, Dustin, and Mike, they weren't as lucky. They picked up Overzealous, unfortunately. Draw the top card in the encounter deck. That card gains Surge, so that's pretty nasty. Taking a look at the decks now. Again, I just went in Arkham DB and started a deck for somebody who had the same deck building requirements. Also, I decided to use standalone mode, which means I can build a deck with up to like 0 to 8 experience without grabbing another basic weakness. Could be 0 to 9. But pretty simplistic. And we're investigating, but we're using kind of the best of Survivor. But we're also going to be running ornate bows so that the boys can fight a little bit on their own. And then Jim Hopper here. Again, pretty, since his ability is a parlay, I've kind of ran with that. We're running Too Fine Clothes. We're running Interrogate. That's kind of the interesting tech. Otherwise, it's pretty stock. We are running Venturer and quite a few things that use supplies. So we're going to be running with that synergy as well. And let's go ahead and take a look at the story. Stranger Things. Prepare for a trip to the small town of Hawkins, Indiana, as you step into the story depicted in Season 1 of Stranger Things. Stranger Things can be played as a standalone scenario or as a side story during any campaign. And the expansion symbol is a bicycle. And here's the standalone token bags. It's quite an elaborate token bag, to say the least. Welcome to Hawkins. Look, I wouldn't have called you in here if this wasn't important, the sheriff says, pausing to take a sip from a steaming mug of coffee. Normally, my mornings are reserved for some well-earned contemplation. But there have been some strange things happening in the town. He gestured out the window towards a town painful in its normalcy. The Byers boy has fallen off the face of the planet. We've had our first murder in God knows how long, and I can't get this feeling that... He clears his throat suddenly, as if cutting off what he was about to say. But the long and short of it is, I wouldn't mind having someone else taking a look at things, someone who isn't connected to this town. If experience has taught you anything, it's that only a fool trusts the calm exterior of a quaint town. You must find a young Will Byers and get to the bottom of what is turning this town upside down. And then we have two mechanics, Invincible and Upside Down. There's an Upside Down world, where they're not considered to be at the same location as other enemies or investigators in that location. They cannot engage, evade, attack, be attacked, or otherwise interact with enemies. The monster is the only exception to this rule. That means they cannot commit cards to skill tests performed by other investigators or otherwise interact with other investigators, unless that other investigator has also entered the Upside Down. And then we have Invincible, which is a trait that the monster has. When that enemy is defeated, is removed from play. Various effects in the scenario can bring them back into play. However, an enemy with the Invincible keyword is in the victory display, then it can no longer enter play. Well, I hope to see you next time for the beginning of play. Again, I'm not sure if we're gonna... I'm kind of guessing we're breaking this into 3 parts. So we'll have this introduction, and then the next 2 parts will be gameplay. But we'll see. Anyway, I'm Big Stupid Grin. That was the introduction to Stranger Things. Hope to see you next time, and until then, have a good one.